It's a good win. There's a lot of people. It's like Woodstock, except everybody's got their clothes on.
Don't eat a damn snack.
You're like my wife when you get in space. You just get lost.
It's ahead! Short steps are better than long steps. That's the only time in your life you're going to hit short is better than long. It's ahead!
Episode 54, everybody. Welcome back to 614 Headsets, the weekly sports podcast where we say football is unconditional love. If you're just finding us for the first time, we're three high school coaches from Columbus, Ohio that just eat, sleep, and breathe football. We love it. It's here. Teams are putting the pads on. It's go time. We're leaving for team camp on Monday. Actually, when this episode comes out, we're at team camp, right? As I'm thinking about the flow of everything. I'm excited. The feeling's in the air. Everybody who's just joining us or finding us for the first time, hey, give us a retweet. Give us a comment. Let us know what you like. If you're liking what we're doing, subscribe. Join this ride that we're on. We've been growing every month, and it's been great. And if you can, man, leave a comment, leave a rating on those podcast things. That helps us grow. And it's not a selfish thing. It's to reach more people and reach what we're trying to do and network and spread the great things these other coaches are doing. Like Coach Saulter is going to come on and talk about the great things he's doing there at Twinsburg and talk about the mid-zone scheme, which a lot of teams don't run. You comment, you subscribe, you retweet, you do those things. More people find it. We all grow together and grow this great game we love, right? That's how Coach Holzer on his lawnmower found us down there in Maryland. You know, those small things have large actions, right? So we really appreciate if you do that for us, right? Like I said, it's not an ego thing, man. It's because we really want to keep spreading what we're doing. But Donovan, go ahead. What are we diving into? I spoiled it a little bit, but you put your flavor on it.
Yeah, we got Coach Saulter going on from Twinsburg, really talking mid-zone and diving deep into what it takes from the running back perspective, the O-line perspective, which I loved, and getting into why he and his team specifically run it, the benefits of it, all the tags that you do on to it. So if you're looking for a new flavor for your offense, if you're in the mix of changing schemes, if you just want to add a wrinkle in there, or to Sayer's credit, you asked a couple questions from the defense side. If you're looking to defend this, right, this is the episode for you. He did a great job, and I think everybody this one's going to love it.
Hey, the man too, 330. I love 330
Yeah.
people. You just know when it's a 330 person, they got a lot more grit than a 614 person.
I'm not gonna argue. Man. There's some grit. There's some grit in that 330-419 area. I'm with you, baby.
They hold it down, right?
Uh-huh.
Nah, hey, look, we're gonna get right into it. Thought of the pod. I love this thing because it makes you think throughout the week or when you're thinking about something or when something lands on you. And I saw a quote the other day, and I think it's really relatable to right now. And I think like when you're in camp and you're having practices, this is a super relatable quote, is just never let yesterday use up too much of today. And I think for me, every day at practice, you got to think about that, right? You're going to have some days that are bad practices. You're going to practice bad, right? Oh, yeah. And you can't dwell on that the next day. You can't just be like, oh, we had a horrible practice. We got to make up for that, because you're never going to get that day back. And that's what I try to explain to our kids. Once you get on that field, you're never getting that day back. You're never going to get the time back that's out there. So if we're asking for 3 hours out of your 24-hour day, you got to be able to come out with a great attitude, relentless effort, and be consistent in what you do every single day. And that's what we tell our players. And I feel like that sits well with a bunch of football coaches right now at this time of year, right? Just never let the past, never let the day before affect tomorrow, and just, or today, whatever your day you're looking at, just live in the moment. Make sure that you're coaching your butt off either way. And the sun's going to rise the next day, even when you have one of them terrible practices, or like Gahanna and it's rained every single day.
But you think about it too, a bunch of married men on this podcast, the Donovan finally joining the crew here with us, trying to forget before you get home even, right? Like trying to reset your mind before you get home and just trying to be present. My wife taking care of 2 kids while I'm at practice, come back. The worst thing I could do is come in and for a very long time, I still might be a little salty as I'm getting in the door, ruin or spoil that time we had together, which might only be an hour that night. Just being a better father, better husband, separate your worlds. And I can't always say I did that great. I'm sure
that's a great way to put it, though. Like, it's not just football, right? We have lives. We're out here, your dads, your husbands, and or significant other, whatever you have going on in your life, like, you can't take some of that stuff home.
That's a good thought of the pod, man. You think about right now, summer, kids at camp, kids on vacation. You don't know. You might be down 3 players on your O-line since we talked about running today, or you might be like, man, my whole secondary's not here today. They're at camp and they got this going on. It's a great opportunity for other players, but I always sometimes try to tell our coaches, like, perspective. Like, I'll walk and you can ask Dom, sometimes like, keep the perspective of what we had and what was going on today in terms of the larger picture. So Ryan, that's a great thought of the pod. And episode 54, winning with the mid zone. Hope you guys like it. As we get rolling today, 614 Headsets is proud to be presented by Fundraising University. Fundraising University Ohio offers a variety of fundraising efforts that helps football teams run profitable, effective, and fast-paced fundraisers designed to raise the most money in the shortest amount of time to reach their fundraising goals. Fundraising University Ohio is locally owned, operated, and with their 6-step blitz system will help your team maximize profits. As a current coach himself, Brent Maxwell with Fundraising University will sit down and help you pick, plan, strategize, and execute your fundraiser that will allow you as a coach to focus on your practice time, prep time, player development, and personal time. If you're interested in us running a fundraiser for you, please contact Brent Maxwell at the letter B Maxwell at fundraising, the letter U dot, or 740-501-8946 to learn how you can get started with fundraising.
We got another great episode tonight, episode 54. Crazy that we've gotten to that number. Feels like just yesterday we were in episode 1 and getting in the teens. Now we're at freaking 54. But we got a great episode tonight with Coach Charles Saulter, head football coach at Twinsburg High School. Coach, we want to thank you for coming on tonight. We really appreciate you joining us for this great conversation. If you wouldn't mind, give the viewers and listeners just your background, how you got to where you are now, maybe your coaching career, just how you got to this point now in your career.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me on, man. I'm a huge fan of the show. I try to watch it weekly, man. I've gotten a lot of good tips from a lot of the guys you had on and just listening to you guys too, man. So thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure. So I'm born and raised in Canton, Ohio, and I was raised by a single mom down there and went off to school, went off to Muskingum University and transferred and went to University of Dayton. That's where I finished things off at that point. Knew I wanted to get into coaching. Figured out when I wasn't growing past 5'9" on a really good day, the NFL wasn't going to come calling. So I was like, okay, what do I do to stay within the game here? So went into education and got my master's and all that stuff at Kent State and got into coaching and been coaching ever since. 2011 was my first season coaching. That was way down in Wayne County at Chippewa High School with a guy by the name of Kevin Wolf, who gave me my first start, and just took off from there. I've been around. I've been to multiple schools. I've probably been at 6 or 7 schools, but this is my second school as a head coach. So that's like a little background. I started off at Chippewa High School for 2 years, coached receivers, DBs, went to Glen Oak High School and coached with Coach Garcia in the Federal League in Canton. Coached the running backs there, and then got my first OC position at Brush High School with Coach Fink, who had came down from Mentor, and was there for a season. Went to with Coach Murphy over at Revere for 2 years as the OC, and then had a brief stint in college at Case Western. I coached the receivers at Case Western in 2018 with Coach Debs, and then got my foot in the door as the first head coach at my first head coaching job at Bedford High School in 2019, and then came over to Twinsburg in 2022.
Coach, you ever run across a Rob Karavic at Glen Oak or Revere at all?
No, but I've heard the name. I think we just missed pass. I know he was at Revere, and I think he was at Kent South for a little bit too. And
I was with him he was at Camp McKinley for a while. Then I was with him at Wadsworth, and then he's been at Glen Oak, and he's been all over Revere. And I'm just interested if you ever met Dr. Doom. He's a strange creature. If you guy's got 7 kids.
Does he really?
Yeah, eating lunch with him. He says they got to put a chain and a lock on the fridge or everything's gone the day after groceries, man. He goes, you buy food, you're buying a pack of chicken for your family. You go through a bag every time. I'm like,
oh, man.
I don't want those problems. But
7 kids? That sounds miserable.
Yeah, dude. He would he wouldn't game plan from home. He could never do it. And so he would game plan from McDonald's. And this guy, like I said, he was a bit of a messy, sloppy, just mad scientist. I just picture just hash browns just dripping all over him as he's going. But I love my guy, man. He's awesome. So, Coach, we love that you follow the show. We can't wait to talk about the rebuild that you've done at Twinsburg and what you got going on. And I'm just excited, too. We run a lot of zone stuff, but never really majored in the mid zone. So excited to dive into learning about that and helping other people learn about that, maybe the pros, the cons, what you counter and pair with it, those types of things. But before we get there, we got to get to know you a little bit more. So Ryan, get us going into that best segment.
The best one of them all. You know how it is. The Pick Six segment is powered by Story Rivals. Sports, media, championships, friendships, and life lessons are among the most meaningful part of the athletic competition. They are passionate about preserving them by offering the most unique highlight experience available.
That's right. And Storied Rivals delivers your team's content with services designed to change the way you experience these unforgettable moments now and for a lifetime. Storied Rivals now offers a complete team apparel and player shop customizable to your program. Contact them by email info@storiedrivals.com to schedule an appointment with a member of their team. And if you're somebody that is listening even outside of Columbus, they are a national thing for team apparel and things too. So don't hesitate to reach out to them for those types of things. Don't just think they're a Columbus brand. We just did our second order with them, and everything has come out fire. And I've loved the quality of stuff that we've done. We're going to round robin this, Coach. You're going to get one at a time from us. Coach Sayers, you're first.
All right, here we go. Coach, with football right around the corner, I love throwing it back and watching some football movies as you approach the season, right? And so one of the questions that I have for you, and another avid listener, Chris Roberts, talks about this all the time. I feel like we all talk about the football movies that we're about to watch. What's the best football movie out there that you watch before the season, or just when you're trying to watch a football movie?
Man, I got two, man. I got to go with Varsity Blues and Friday Night Lights, man. I gotta go with both of them. I
like that.
Little Bud Kilmer action, little district title action, man. I gotta dive into that every year.
I love me some Gridiron Gang.
Yeah. Love that one too.
That's me. I love that movie.
Go on, man. I don't know. It was
I
good,
remember the Titans too, but that's an obvious.
I feel like everybody's gonna say.
Everybody's gonna say that.
It's almost too perfect how they come together, man. I love it, man. It's an amazing film.
But what I like about Friday Night Lights is that was probably one of the first football movies I've ever seen that the good guys lose at the end. When you think they're about to punch it in and then they lose. I love that.
Like, how were they going to beat that team anyway? What was the team?
Carter Davis was
Carter. Did you see those dudes?
Come on. 30 for 30 on them.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Animals.
Yeah. Wild.
So,
Coach, my first question:
program,
which coaching stop was the most impactful for you throughout your time getting to where you are now? If you could name one.
Oh man, that's a tough one. I've probably got to go. I may have to go with Revere. Actually, I may have to go with Revere. Just because I think that's the first. And I learned a ton from every stop that I've been at. Everybody has been amazing, but that was the first time with Coach Murphy turn the keys to the offense over to me a little bit and really let me do my own thing. And he still is the head coach. He still interfered and did all that good stuff. But that's when I really learned to schedule my own practices. I ran the offense, scheduling the offensive practice and game scripts and all that stuff. So that's probably the most influential, but man, that's a hard one because they all brought a lot to the table.
Donovan, do you know who Revere's most famous alumni is?
I do not.
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I knew you didn't, Ryan, but I want to at least give somebody a fair shot.
You knew I had no clue.
Coach, I was in the Suburban League for a little while there at Wadsworth, but Twinsburg joined just after I left and came down to Columbus. So those two schools never crossed paths while I was there. But we haven't mentioned this, right? Coach of the Year 2023 in your region, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, district, like
District.
Northeast District.
Yeah, Northeast District Coach of the Year. Congratulations, man. You look
He
back.
was trying to be real humble. That he didn't want to add that in with his beginning.
It gets me going here, right? Twinsburg looks like their last winning season, 2012, last year winning season. Talk to us. What's been at the core, or what can you contribute to that kind of turnaround in that 2 years?
I think one, it's a testament to my staff. I think I've got an amazing staff, man. I'm probably a little bit biased, obviously, but I think I've got one of the best staffs around. And I brought two guys over with me when I was at Bedford, and I now have around 4 or 5 that are on staff now. Somebody like my defensive coordinator, Jamal Riff, has been with me since 2019. He's probably the reason why I still have a job, to be honest with you, because when we're not moving the ball offensively, and I call it offensively, his defense has just been stellar. And we're talking about a defense that gave up 31 points in 2022 coming into our first season with them, and we dropped down to 18 last year. It's a huge drop for us. So I think my staff has been the biggest reason why we've had that much success. to be honest with you. And with that, and I hate to use this word because everybody uses it, but you got to start to talk about changing the culture a little bit. I don't technically use the word culture. I use the word identity. Who do we want to be? And we pushed physicality, we pushed toughness, we pushed those things that really seeped into the minds of our kids here. And really, our whole motto is don't flinch. And it's huge for us. And this is something that we really adopted this year. And the kids love it. The kids love it. And we apply it and say, listen, man, there's going to be a lot of times in life where you're going to there's going to be things that come your way and you can't flinch. Part of being a man and part of growing up and becoming a good husband and becoming a good father and all that stuff is life's going to throw some things at you, man, but you got to find a way to not flinch. I think those two things are really the things that really come to mind when we start to talk about changing this thing around. Twinsburg's always had athletes. Like, that's the thing. Like, they've always had dudes. The last thing, I guess, to touch on, too, is that we've done a lot better job at keeping our kids, right? We've done a lot better job at keeping our kids. We've got some really good private schools that are around us. Like St. Ed's is not far. It's not that far. It's on the west side. You've got St. Vincent, St. Mary. You've got Walsh. You've got these other schools that are stellar programs. They have stellar coaches. They have good facilities. They have good education. Getting in and keeping our kids is a huge deal for us.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people don't realize, like, it's not as big down here around Columbus. We have a couple that are there, and we have times lost players there and stuff, but it's not as prevalent as it is, say, around that Akron, Northeast Ohio, Cleveland area.
I mean, you got all those schools. You got Ursuline, Mooney,
it's a lot more.
Nation, you know what I mean? It's just doesn't stop.
But there's just a big difference between the publics and privates. Whereas I feel down here, the suburb schools around Columbus, it's a little bit more even in terms of opportunities and things there and that. So it's definitely, if you've never been up around there or coached there, you don't realize how different it can be. So
it's the Wild West at times, man. It really is.
It's the Wild West down here a little bit too.
At times too.
Mine's worse. Mine's worse, man.
But Coach, all right, I'm next up on this one. So look, have you played the new NCAA? Are you an NCAA guy?
Okay, I'm a huge NCAA guy. Our group chat's our coaches group me is going crazy over it. One of the coaches got it on Xbox. I'm a PS5 guy. I'm going.
That's my philosophy on that. Real quick, Coach. I'm an Xbox guy. Okay. PS5 guys, you got small hands because that's for guys with small hands. That's why the controller's way smaller. That's what I tell our football players at practice.
My hands are that close.
You know what I mean? They got that little controller for little guys.
That's what it is, man. It might be that.
I'm playing. No, but so are you getting it? Do you have it? Are you playing it yet?
I'm definitely gonna be playing on Friday. Yeah, when it comes out. Yeah, that's what I'm.
So you didn't get the deluxe like I did.
I didn't get that. I don't even have a PS5 yet. I'll be honest with you. Like, I'm gonna go buy a PS5 just to play this game. Literally.
That's great. I love it. Stout needs to do the same thing. But I got it this week. Obviously, I got it Monday. Played my brother. First game, took it back to old days, right? He was Ohio State. I played with Colorado. Obviously, shout out Prime.
Sure.
Okay. Beat him 29-28. Beautiful start to my career there. What's the one school on there that you would choose to rebuild your dynasty with?
Oh, man. You know what, man? I probably would take it to the MAC. More than likely, honestly. I probably would go like Kent State, honestly, just because it's close. I'll probably go somewhere like Kent State. Listen, I'm a huge Michigan fan. I get crap all the time, but it's already a dynasty. You're not rebuilding with.
You're not doing that.
You're not rebuilding with them. So I'm gonna take it to the MAC and go Kent State or Akron or something like that, man, and just turn it into just a powerhouse.
The moment he said Kent State,
I don't know. It's a good option. Kent State's got to rebuild a little bit. They suck.
What's your guys' choice? Stout?
It could be Miami too. I see Miami in the back row. I see Miami too. I'm just.
You know Johnny's doing Miami.
There's nothing to rebuild from Miami, so you can't take that.
I don't know, man. I don't know who I would go. I'd have to sit there and think about it. I'm with you. I don't think I'd do something big. I don't know. Maybe something cool like a little SMU or somebody. I don't know.
Yeah,
I have to dive through and look at jersey combos. And
I'm gonna keep it real. That's what I did. Hey, Road to Glory. My guy, first year we had to go win the Heisman at Old Dominion. I went to Ohio Dominican. Seeing ODU, that's where we went and rebuilt at first.
I love it. I love it.
All right, Coach. My second question. What is the best movie, or at least your favorite movie of all time? Sayers got it a little bit with the football movie, but what is your personal
this guy
favorite
didn't
movie?
even read my questions before he made his. That's embarrassing.
No, sorry, can't. didn't.
Same question, just took the football part out. Go ahead, Coach. Sorry,
Yeah.
Coach Saulter.
No, you're good. You know what, man? Favorite movie of all time, man, is actually, and you guys are probably gonna laugh, it's actually Halloween H2O. I'm a big Halloween guy. I love scary movies, love horror films. I'm a big Michael Myers guy.
I was not expecting that, to be honest.
Love the whole series. Huge.
We got a player that looks exactly like Michael Myers.
No, are you serious?
He's a lot.
It's not a good thing.
That's crazy. I don't know. I mean,
slightly. It's become his nickname. You know,
right?
What I mean?
It is what it is.
Son. So he didn't laugh like I laughed.
Yeah.
It's Donovan's son. So sorry.
I don't even know who you're talking about.
Where are you today? Did you do your late night construction pour? Are you okay?
Yeah, I don't even know what you're talking about. You'll have to tell me after this.
This guy looks like he's about to, Coach Saulter, dismiss him.
Yeah. All right, Coach. I had to dive it back. It's been a while. There's a lot of new teams in it, but you're coaching the Suburban League. You talked about Northeast Ohio football. We have a lot of people that listen to us from Northeast Ohio. Definitely the bulk, I'd say, is the Columbus area, and somehow Phoenix has become a big region. Hey, whoever's out in Phoenix, man, we love you. Reach out to us. I want to know who's in Phoenix.
Yeah,
We're just
no,
talking about
100%.
this yesterday.
If you're in
Tell us
Phoenix,
who's listening
call
to
us.
Phoenix.
No.
But talk to us about the Suburban League. What is it? What's its makeup? What's its identity? Give us a quick spiel about there's a lot of good teams in it.
You know what's wild? It's crazy, man. When I was in the LEL, it's so different how football can change from league to league, right? LEL was about speed. It was speed kills. That was every Friday night, honestly. And then you get to the Suburban League, and everything is almost enhanced. Like it just the level of coaching in the Suburban League is stellar. Like with every team that we play, like you could still be like 1-9. Like North Royalton, I think, was 1-9 last year, and they almost beat us. Like they almost beat us, and they were down by 17 just because of how good their coaching staff is. It's the level of coaching in this league is insane to me. The adjustments that you see after halftime, like all those different things, like it really is a chess match. I'd say it's a league it's a power league. It's not a ton of air raid and that sort of team, but you better be able to line up. You better be pretty physical, honestly, like week to week. And even if you are more spread, like Lordonia is more of a spread team, but they're going to be physical up front. Like they're going to run counter, they're going to run inside zone. They're going to be physical still. Everything is the amount of physicality that you see week to week. Yeah.
I remember when I was there, a lot of variety. This is from an offense perspective.
Yeah.
You had spread, power spreads. You had Talmadge lining up in a bunch of two tight end, fullback stuff. I was at Wadsworth. We were a bunch of power eye type of things too. So it's just, I was curious to see if it was still varied like that.
Yeah, it is. And you got to be prepared. The only thing that we don't see probably really is we don't see like triple. We don't see really triple option, or there's triple option. We know what I mean. Old school Navy triple option. And we don't see like wing T and stuff like that. But there's everything else you're going to see.
I love it. Let's get into it. Let's start to talk about. He's ready to talk about the X's and O's. I heard him talking. Let's go.
Look.
All right, let's get into it. Main topic for tonight is the mid-zone running game. It's talking about the philosophy of it, talking about how it's built, the nitty-gritty of it all. And the main topic of today's show is powered by First Down Playbook. First Down Playbook is the nation's leading playbook and play design software. With over 35,000 professionally drawn and editable team plays with notes and full playbooks to start from, you'll be on your way to getting an edge over the competition. First Down Playbook can be your entire team management system with practice schedules, scripts, custom quarterback wristbands, and more. If you use the code HEADSETS24 or just mention the show, you'll receive $100 off the already most affordable game option in today's game. If you're looking for that link, it's in our show notes on podcast version. So you listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, it's there, or in the description and show notes for our YouTube show as well. So go get that now before your season starts and take advantage of it. It really is a great system. So Coach, walk us through a little bit. When it comes to mid-zone, like Coach Stout said, we're a big zone team, but like he said, not too heavy in the mid-zone. What, for people that don't know, what is the mid-zone concepts and particulars of the play? If it's running back aiming points, if it's O-line focuses, help us break down the mid-zone concept just a little bit, help our viewers and listeners understand.
So I'll just talk about a little bit of how we got to it and why mid-zone and all that stuff, and break it down, and just interrupt me a little bit, obviously, whenever you ever have questions. And when I get to the technicalities of offensive line play and stuff, I may not dive all the way into that. Everybody blocks things differently, but I'll talk a little bit about that as well. So why did we get to mid zone? So number one, I think it's a great compliment to outside zone. If you run outside zone, which we don't run a ton of, but a lot of teams do. So when I start to talk about mid zone, and people ask me about it a lot because most people run inside or outside zone or wide zone, whatever you may call it. It gives the illusion of outside zone to get that horizontal expansion by the defense, right? Like we want the overflow. We want the defense to think it's outside zone. It's a great play to run really with average offensive linemen, which is, I think we're going to be really good up front this year, but there's been some years where, it's high school football. And I'm like, how are we going to hide 2 of our 5 offensive linemen because they can't block anybody, but we don't have anybody else to put in. And it's also a good play to run with really honestly with average running backs. If you've got decent vision, you really can be successful with this play as it pertains to mid zone. You can run it out of multiple formations, personnel groups. We're very multiple on offense. Like all those personnel groups that I have listed there, 10, 11, 12, 13, 20, 21, all those different things. We'll easily get into all of them or maybe 5 to 7 of them in a game. Like we're in and out of different personnel groupings and packages and formations and all that stuff. We're very multiple on offense. So I think that mid zone is one of the most diversified and multifaceted way to run zone, right? It takes advantage of those aggressive or the flowing linemen. And then you still got the bend, bang, and bounce that you have with outside zone. You still got that stuff, obviously, depending on the flow of the defense and all that stuff. So when we talk about stats, like these are just a few things that we've had over the years since we've been running it. So I'll take it back to 2019 real quick when we were at Bedford. We started off just running like more inside zone, power, counter, ISO, that sort of thing, and figured out we weren't moving people. That was the problem. Like we had some decent size, but we weren't overly aggressive. And we were having trouble like up front. And so when I was at Revere, we actually ran a mid-zone concept and we had a lot of success with it. And I had just went away for that. I'd been at different places and that sort of thing. Like week 4 of Bedford, I'll never forget, we were playing Cleveland Central Catholic. And ever since then, like it's been our bread and butter play. Like we just took off with it and we've gotten better and better over the years of running it. So obviously 2020 was the weird year. We had 8 games, maybe we played 9 games. I don't even know. It was just a strange year. And then we really busted out with a really solid campaign in 2021. You could see this was our average of running the play. 2022 and 2023, obviously, these were our averages for running this. It's been good to us over the years. And so that's why I always lobby for it. But so how did we get to it? And guys, and again, just interrupt me if there's anything, if I'm talking too much or anything I'm saying, just interrupt me and whatnot. But we needed a run scheme that was not primarily based as an inside run. We're not an outside zone team, but we needed something that was in the middle and how I look at it. So we weren't able to just line up and physically push teams off the ball for the majority of the game. And we needed something for average backs. Like when I took over at Bedford, we had some good players, but we weren't explosive. Like I didn't have any D1 guys running around on the offensive side of the ball and certainly not in the backfield, all right, that first year. So when I talk about it, people always ask me if I'm talking about mid zone and stuff like that. They always ask, what's the difference between inside zone and mid zone? That's what I get the most. And I'll compare it to outside too a little bit. But like inside zone to me, how I would coach it is A gap to A gap. Like your aiming point is downhill. It's right now. It's at the butt of the center, maybe the outside leg of the center, whatever side you're going to. It's not meant to stretch the defense. It's downhill. It's going to hit quick. But to me also, and the best teams I've been on or been around in inside zone it's designed more for like those road grade offensive linemen, like those good 3, like your center and your 2 guards. To me, I feel like have to move people for inside zone. When I've been on teams, if we run it and we can't move guys off the ball and the defense is just kicking our ass, like we haven't been successful with it at all. And that year in 2019, we just couldn't. We just didn't have it. So the difference between inside zone and mid zone to me is the mid zone, you still have your bend, bang, and bounce, but how we coach it is we want to stretch and pull for the defense. Like that's where we find the most success with it. We use the terminology of hugging the butts, obviously, of our offensive linemen there. And so our aiming point for the back is the outside leg of the guard, right? If we're pistol or under center, we've used the inside leg of the tackle as well. because a lot of times if we say inside leg of the tackle, they're going to end up taking a little bit tighter anyway to hit where we want it to hit. It's not outside zone, but it does stretch the defense. It's like it can look like outside zone, obviously, because of the running back's course. It hits later, right? It definitely hits later. It allows those more athletic or smaller linemen to climb, right? So we're pretty decent size up front this year, but there's been times where my first year here, because of injuries, we had a dude playing left guard, John Corbin, who was one of the more aggressive and had the biggest heart on the team, but he was literally 5'6", 155. Like in the Suburban League, he wasn't moving anybody vertically. Like that just wasn't gonna happen when you're going up and playing Nordonia and Solon and Wadsworth and Hudson. Like that wasn't happening. But it allowed him, because he was a smaller guy and a little bit more athletic, that it allowed him to get into his block and start to climb and that sort of thing. So it gave also too, we're in that even front. And let's say we're running zone and there's a 5, a 3, a 2-eye, and a 5. And sometimes that 2-eye, we know sometimes can be a dude. Like you're going to put one of your best guys there, that shade. And if you don't have a guy at left guard and we're running zone that can move that 2-eye vertically, which is harder to do, it allows you to get on the hip of that 2-eye and push him through that front side B gap if you're having trouble doing it. So these are just some differences that I've seen. What are some coaching points? Any questions so far from me right now?
I got a question for you, Coach. So you talked about how this is really suited for if you don't have a stellar offensive line, but you also mentioned like if you don't have a road grader offensive line. And what does it take, or what kind of traits in a lineman do you see that make this successful? Is it just a great understanding of angles and the technique required with it, or is it a little bit of that athleticism too, or just a good mix of both?
I think it's a mix of both, honestly. So I think if you're a little bit athletic, I think you'll be a little bit better at it. But if you're not as athletic, if you can get your technique down, which I'll talk about in a sec of what we do, if you can get the technique down, I think you could be successful with it, right? So like we've all had that offensive line that maybe isn't athletic. Maybe you're not pulling a bunch. Maybe you're not running power and counter and that sort of thing because they're not as athletic here, but they've got really good technique and they've got good hands inside. They've got a good stance. They can come out of their stance. They have an explosion. I think if you have that, I think you can be successful at this play. I do. Let's talk just some of the coaching points real briefly and get into it, because I really want to talk about what like our mid-zone play, what we run, and I'm going to talk about like how we protect it. What are the things we do off of it? Because there's a lot of different tags we do off of the mid-zone play, and it's all the same blocking structure for the offensive line, but things around them change. Like our quarterback steps and what happens. If we're in the gun, our quarterback's toes are at 5 yards with whatever we're doing here. But if we're running zone, our quarterback's going to take one square shuffle to the right. He's going to get his eyes to the backside defensive end. We're still reading the backside defensive end. If not, we have the drop backside. We don't bubble. We open up and drop, that sort of thing. So we'll read the backside defensive end. He can pull it and throw the drop, read the alley player. He can do all that stuff. And it forces that defense to stretch because, and I'll talk about that in a second on the next slide with the running back and that sort of thing. If we're in the pistol, we'll open at 5 o'clock and we'll obviously we'll have the exchange on the second step. Our running back's course will be to the outside leg of the guard, will be his aiming point. Our running back steps is going to be slow to fast through. That's the thing that we preach all the time. Coach Okuma does a really good job, who's our running backs coach. And that's something that he's constantly saying every single day to our backs. It's not inside zone where we're trying to hit it downhill right now. That's not a slow play to me. We want to give our linemen some time to get into their blocks, get into their combos, and then eventually start to climb if that's what we need to do. So if we're in the gun, our back will be straddle the outside leg of the guard for running zone right again. He'll straddle the outside leg of the guard. His heels will be on the quarterback's toes, and he'll take one shuffle step, just square shuffle. We found that doing that slows them down a little bit. Because high school backs, ready, set, go, they're turning, they're coming, they're ready to go, like they're going now. And it was hitting too quick for us. So we take that one shuffle step to keep him square, and then he will clear the quarterback's toes. Like it looks like we do it in a unique way. We may change it a little bit this year because we've got two backs that are over 200 pounds. We're probably going to be a little bit more downhill with it, but we do it in a unique way because we really want to make it look like it's outside zone. We want the defense to overflow. I keep saying that, but we want that action. So we try to make it look like that. And the running back, he's going to clear the quarterback horizontally first, like before he hits vertical, like he's going to cut quarterback's toes. He'll still read the first guy technically past the center. Most of the time, surfing it even front, it's going to be more than likely it could be a 2, it could be most of the time a 3. But I don't teach the back a ton of reads. I tell our guys, like, go be a back. If you can't go be a back and find daylight and find where you're supposed to bend the ball back up or bang or whatever the terminology is we're going to use, then you can't play for us. I don't want guys in there that are, hey, here's your read. You're always looking at this guy, because now they start looking at that and now they're not paying attention to everything else. Like, just go in there and be a running back. The quarterback will take one shuffle step and he'll clear, and then now he's getting his eyes to the first guy, first defensive lineman past the center to that front side backer. And you can see what we're talking about with if we're under center or if we're in the pistol. He'll aim for the outside leg of the guard. He'll take that 45-degree step. It's still slow to fast through and can read those same things. So our blocking principles is we're going to block 5, read the 6, and then we're going to add a tight end for the 7th defender. The center will always call out even or odd in every play. And our brace principles, we'll use covered versus uncovered. We really spend a lot of time on IDing the fronts and IDing who the mic is and that sort of thing. The center's always making that first call, of course, and that kind of tells everybody else where they're going to go. You can use a lead step or bucket step. We're a lead step team. When we do it, I just feel like we get more vertical. We can get we're more explosive that way with who we are. You absolutely can use a bucket step if you're into that as well. Guys, questions for me over this at all?
No, I'm good. You're getting into it. I'm just waiting to get to when you talk about the tags and some other things. One question I had is, and you're going to talk about compliments, so I'm going to let you wait till you get to that part. But when you talk about the mid zone personnel groups, how you talked about, we run a lot of personnel groups too. Mm-hmm. What's your breakdown? Like, what's your favorite personnel group to run it out of? What are you having the most success with? 10, 11, 12. What are you guys doing?
So I'll be honest, we see a lot of odd in the Suburban League, right? We obviously have some teams that bump into an even and that sort of thing, but most of the team, or a lot of the teams we see, they are in odd fronts. So I love 12 personnel. I think if you got 2 tight ends that can line up tight end wing or double tight, or even if they're both like in the sniffer position on their respective sides, I think it causes a lot of problems. And so I love going tight end wing and running like a zone split action. That's one of my favorite things to do out of it. So we have a lot of success running it like that, especially with FIBs, like your formation to the boundary and that sort of thing.
I hate when that happens. I hate when coaches run fib against us. I just hate it.
Stress those rules.
Hey, it kills it. I hate it.
It does, especially when it's to our sideline. And so especially, obviously, if it's a situation to where we're in tight end wing to the left, and then we'll shift to tight end wing to the right. And man, it's high school ball. Like you're not coaching. And one thing I've learned is we're really not coaching against other coaches. That's not what it's about. I'm coaching against whoever number 44 is on the field. You know how to defend it. Like there's nothing that I do that another coach can't figure out how to stop. But the thing is that, are you going to get your kids to know how to stop it? Are they going to remember the checks and the calls and all that stuff? So I'm trying to confuse.
It's interesting too. It's like some people are live and die by a true odd stack or a 3-4. Like they will not break it. Now, other teams, and I think defenses that have evolved and become very challenging, are the ones that can shift or line up in different things or have different packages in their odd thing. But every now and then we'll see some teams that they'll stay in that odd and they don't care if there's a tight end. They don't care if there's a tight end wing. And then obviously as an offensive guy, thank you. That kind of helps a little bit with leverage and stuff. So we appreciate that. But I'm with you. We still see a lot of it too as well. So I was just curious about it.
Yeah, no, that's the key. You'd be surprised with, just like you said, they won't come out of it. We do see quite a few adjustments. If we're gashing people in the odds, like they're going to get out of it. That's what we've seen. That's what we've seen. They're going to go to more of a 4-down line. They're going to go to more of an under or an over front, that sort of thing. They're going to get into that. But there's some people that love to stay in. There's some guys who have handled us in the odd. Like they don't have to come out of it. Like they're just like Hudson really, I thought last year did a wonderful job, like in their odd front. Like they do it. They do what they do, and they're really good at it. So when we start to talk about like just presenting the play, and obviously we still go cover versus uncovered, like covered rules. It's just like out of a stance, we'll take that 10-inch like directional lead step with the play side foot if you're covered. We'll then obviously opposite hand and foot follow together, upfield number of the defender. We'll get that second down, that second foot down as quickly as possible. We want to stay square. It's not always like that much different as far as some of the other techniques and stuff like that you might do for inside zone. I think it's a little bit different for outside zone. I have never run really outside zone, so I'm not a whiz by any means at that. If you're uncovered, obviously out of the stance, we're going to take that lateral step towards your defender. Obviously, you've got the calls and tags and that sort of thing that you're going to do. And your first responsibility is that play side gap. And then our eyes are going to move to whatever that front side backer is. And again, probably stay square with that. So let me go over like real quick. This is, if we're just regular base 2x2 and we're running mid zone to our right here, it's the same. Like our calls would be in this. Like our right side, our play side tackle would he's a solo. Okay. Obviously our center and our guard, they'll have a car. That's just the front side of combo here to the front side backer. And then we'll tag the back to the backside backer. Like it's not anything that's unusual that we're going to do. Now there's some things that we can do as far as like insert and that sort of thing. So we're now obviously we can lock that backside defensive end and we can insert our tight end or sniffer or whatever to the backside backer. And there's other things. We'll get into a little bit more RPO this year and stuff like that. But that's the basics of it. I think the one thing that we do too that's different that we see is that when we go against that tight front, we read the outside backer, the backside outside backer. Some teams arc to the backside and they'll still read that 4. I just feel like he gets in there too quickly. We'll cut him or however the situation is. We'll take the backside 4-eye. And we'll read that backside backer if we'll throw the drop or whatever we're going to throw as far as that goes. Stout, what do you guys do? Do you guys read the backs? Do you guys arc the backside when you read the backside defensive end?
Just depends what scheme we're doing. And
Okay.
it just depends to like how are they fitting their linebackers and stuff. You know what I mean? I've seen it work both ways where the arc works beautiful.
Okay.
And then I've seen the arc look pretty bad. You arc, you try to get to the backer, he shoots underneath.
Yep.
I think more often than not, we will arc more with our gap schemes and stay true to the zone schemes. Things that we've had success with is playing around, like you talked about, some split flow action.
Yep.
We'll arc at that spot, and then we'll go ahead, and it almost is like a trap kill shot with a split. So rather than causing a collision there, and then you hear college guys talk all the time about how do you give a different look to those good players, right? Well, you cut them, you arc them, you do different things. I find like when that guy has that 4-eye on him and he gets an arc release in front of his face, it pauses him, right? It sometimes even expands them wider. If that's sometimes what I start to see is when I get up there and I look at the angles and things, if we arc this, can we kind of trap split flow that back and get a little bit of a wham action almost?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and I don't, like I said, I've done both. It's been some years since we've arced them. We just didn't have much success at doing it. Not something that I wouldn't look at doing again. But I really like what you were talking about as far as arcing them and still having that split flow action backside. I think that's
yeah,
great.
I think anytime you arc a guy, you either have the quarterback that can outrun it, right? Or like you said, I think you have to bring somebody back to block them or kick them out or do something.
Agreed. I'm with you on that. I've got some like different phases. I don't know how much you guys want me to go into as far as like the phases of our blocking and what we do and like how we explain it to the players, but it's probably not much different. It's certainly not anything that I've smart enough to create myself here, but just like the things that we say, like the first kind of steps of contact and obviously just establishing your aiming point, angle of attack, all that stuff. And if we're running zone, if we're in that even step again, or in that even front or even odd, really, play side tackle, we're going to take that directional lead step, second step square, elbow squeezed, uppercut, obviously punch going low to high, all that stuff. Like we can read through this stuff and kind of see what it is. It's not anything that's too smart on my end, obviously. One thing we do is we try to, like, we use our eyes a little bit. So the simple fact, like if it's play slide guard, if we're directional step, we're stepping here to our spot here. If it's inside eye to outside eye, like we're going to use our inside arm. On the outside chest plate, eyes to the front side backer. If the 3 tech is inside eye, reaches my outside, then it's big on B at that point. I'm overtaking that and doing what we need to do. These are just some of the things that we talk about with our players and doing it.
Coach, you said earlier on, and with the rules, it made me think back to it. You said you could do it with a bucket step, but you typically just go at that typical like lead directional step.
Mhm.
Would you do it more? The rules would say the same. Would you go more for a bucket step if you had maybe a little smaller, more athletic lineman where we got to get a little bit of distance, a little bit of running start almost with that bucket step? Is that kind of where you get to it, where it's a give and a take?
I would say maybe. I say maybe. And if we had it all over again, obviously, and I talked about that smaller guard that we had, like with that line that we had 2 years ago, I think a bucket step might have been a little bit better for us, right? Because we weren't as big and as powerful as we are now up front. So I think I hate to use the term getting in the way because that's the worst term to do it. But like, in that case with him, like it's honestly, you're not moving anybody to that case. He got good leverage in doing that. But a lot of times with taking that lead step, he would find himself sometimes in trouble because now if you got a 6'3", he's getting shucked left. But if you take the bucket step, obviously it can get you into a little bit of a better phase in that. So that's actually a good.
Coach, you said you had a couple clips to show. You want to show us a couple clips, and then we'll bring them back so he doesn't have to stare at a
absolutely
blank screen.
Absolutely. Let me go over. Can you guys? Is this on here? Absolutely. So let me just get into some of the zone scheme and what we do, and then I'll talk about like some of the things we do off of it as well. You can see like how we will clear. We're supposed to clear the quarterback's toes, and we take the shuffle step. You still have your bend, bang, bounce, but we get that overflow of those backers, right? And this is what we really want at that point, right? We want to see that cutback. Go to a better clip here. Same type of situation, more of an even front here. We'll clear. Like we're looking to do this. Again, it can bounce, don't get me wrong, but we want to stretch, right? That we probably got some sort of lock called in here. But we want to stretch and puncture. That's our main thing that we're trying to do.
Who are you guys playing there, Coach?
This is Akron North. It's not. Let me get to it.
Just annihilated.
Yeah. Like this is like some action from the pistol here. This is where we find most of our success at. So we'll open up outside leg of the guard. We'll start to see those backers. If you can see them, like they're flowing over top right now. And now we'll hit the cutback with it.
Come on, number one. Oh man, I'd have been yelling at him, boy.
Yeah, it's a lot of that stuff, man. But so let me show you like some of the stuff we do off of it, at least so we can see. Like here's some of the split action that we talked about. So we'll take they're in an odd and how we would call it that because they got a nose. But
now, do you find that the split flow action freezes those backers and you get less of that flow that you're looking for? When I watch a lot of NFL stuff and you watch like San Francisco and some other teams, I feel like sometimes when they're running that true wide zone, they like to add that split because they're trying to freeze those backers in the box so they don't get that fast flow over top.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So for us, we didn't run a lot of zone split last year. So we didn't see a lot of that. Like they just knew, obviously, we got a lot of fast flow because we ran zone just our base way most of the time. We'll probably be more split this year because it will pause them a tad bit. And if it does, that helps our linemen be able to climb to that second level a little bit quicker and a little bit more precisely with that. So that's where we're at with that. We did run a little bit, but we ran so many different things off of zone. To be honest with you, we really could run this base play every single play and just with all of our tags off of it. And one of the guys I talked to about this was a guy by the name of Mike Dovenberg. He's actually I think he's at the College of San Mateo or something like that now out in California. And this is all they did. Like mid zone was their only play that they ran. That they ran no other run scheme. And He just talked about a lot of different things that they did off of it to protect it. And so I may call zone maybe 12 or 13 times in a game, but I'll call it with everything else, like more often than not. Like here's the insert that we'll do with as well. Like we'll line up in a formation. Now we're in 13 personnel at this point. We've got a tight end and two sniffers here, and we'll run zone left and just pull both of them. It's the same concept though for us. Like the line is always blocking zone right or zone left. Same with the insert action. Same action in the backfield. And then one of the things
is your inserts usually lead in play side, or do you have both play side and back side?
So what we did last year, he led play side.
Mm-hmm.
He led play side. Like he was just an extra hat in the play.
Gotcha.
Honestly, yeah. So I think we might dabble a little bit this year and do some lock stuff and have him insert backside, but he was just an extra guy.
Yeah, anytime I dove in, I watched some Jim McNally stuff. They were talking about that. That's their favorite way to do it, or really the only way is they believed in having that leader to the play side off of it. Don, why don't you bring Coach back here a little bit? You talked about some of the counters and compliment stuff. My time, I felt like a lot of guys used to pair backside veer with mid zone. They'd start seeing like really fast flow. They'd backside veer. Like, what are you doing aside from maybe tagging the play? Do you look for as like your next run, or what do you counter off of that?
So if we're getting a lot of the flow and the over aggressiveness of everything like that, we'll get into a couple of different things. So one, we'll get into our bash concept, which is obviously just a regular bash concept. So like now that was going to be my next clip. Actually, it's just, obviously, if we're going zone right bash, obviously it's inverted in the backfield here. We'll read the backside and that sort of thing. So that will slow them down a little bit as well. If we're stacking the box, if they're stacking the box and they've caught on to what we're doing as far as our zone scheme, so we'll tag a money scheme with it, which is all pre-snap stuff for us. So let's say we're in trips right and we're running zone right, and our back is offset, like they're teeing off on us. We're ready to go at that point. We'll just read the outsides. And so what that means is like the number one receiver, the single receiver, he'll have a 5-yard speed out. That's all pre-snap. The corner's off. We'll take it right down. To the 3 receiver side, they've got the now screen out there. So number 1's got the now. Number 2 is blocking the corner. Number 3 is blocking the most dangerous in the alley there. That's all pre-snap. Like I'll call zone and I'll tag it, and our quarterback just reads it accordingly to that. And even with that also too, if we're seeing a lot of flow over the top as well, and they're still teeing off and doing that sort of thing, we've also got a speed option off of it as well. So now if we're running zone and we've got our quarterback, we have our back that's offset to the left in the sidecar, we'll fake that zone action, the same steps, and now we'll go speed option opposite of that to do it. It's just, those are just some of those things that we start to talk about, like how do you protect your base play?
Not seeing a lot of true backside speed option anymore.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's interesting to see it when it comes up. This is my last question, the guys, if they have any, but I always ask this for people who are listening. They might be super interested in learning more about it, and you can reach out to Coach. Who are some teams, college-wise, high school-wise, even NFL, coaches, resources? If somebody wanted to learn more about the mid-zone, like where would you point them to?
Yeah, actually, it's a guy, and he did this a little bit. I saw it on Glazier, actually. I don't know if he's still there or not. He was the OC at Massillon. I think his name was Jared Troxel. He did a pro gun system, which is on Glazier right now. And they talked a little bit about mid-zone there. My guy, Mike Dovenberg, who's out at the College of San Mateo, he was like a whiz on it. I even talked to, and I can't think of his name, he's the new tight ends coach at Ohio State. He came to visit us last year in the offseason, and they actually run quite a bit of mid-zone at Ohio State. So like those 3 things are some of the people that I dive into as far as film and stuff like that. And if I'm looking for new ideas and that sort of thing when it comes to the mid-zone, it actually is really, sometimes I'll be honest with you, it's hard to find sometimes. Like not a lot of people as that I know of. I think more NFL teams do it than a lot of other schools. A lot of schools are still inside zone, outside zone type situation.
Yeah, you talk about less is more. There's some schools now that's all they'll do. It's just those 2 complements with all their tags and RPOs and play action. So it's always interesting to see like where other people can turn to and dive down. So,
Yeah.
guys, you got anything for Coach here at the end?
Coach, so I had one last question. It's just what on the defensive side of the ball have you seen from the teams have done to be able to stop you or that gives you guys some problems?
So I think one of the things that we started to do is that we had to start breaking some tendencies. Like when we had our back offset and we were going zone, we'd always just have them offset to the left. And so now there's only so many things that we're doing out of that. Slanting and angle to the side opposite of the back would be some things that would give us some issues that we have to continue with. And I think anytime, and say what you want, like high school football, man, like when you start twisting and playing games with the front, like it messes up rules. Like it just does. If you start shifting and shifting pre-snap, showing blitz, backing off, and then start playing games and like playing those twist games and stuff like that, like those things give, I think, high school kids trouble. Like it just, and even though you're taking your zone steps and you should be able to pick those things up easily, it doesn't matter. Like they still start to freak out for whatever reason. So like stuff like that.
They do. You ain't gonna lie. That's why we stem in a lot of our blitz game, right? Our linemen stem. Like today, we were putting in our 2-dog pressures with our zone coverage behind our blitz game, and our kids started stemming in front of some of the JV guys. Then sometimes we had the best on the best, and when our guys would stem, we jumped off sides probably 3 or 4 times on offense today, just from that little stem from gap to gap. And it's just funny to see how the kids they just can't. That little movement just messes the kids up so much. And what we started doing is telling our kids to play with it, right? Like stem when we aren't even blitzing. Like you can stem to that gap, but then slant back out to your original gap to get us back into our over or under front, whatever I'm calling on that play.
Exactly. Like all that stuff. And again, like you're not coaching against other coaches, man. Like
you just got to beat 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, sometimes 15-year-olds.
That's what it is. Like that's what it is. And all that stuff, the more movement and stuff like that defenses do, the motion causes emotion. That's how I look at it.
Coach, man, I appreciate it, man. I was excited to get you on, and it's our first time I got to talk to you. Now I'm a fan. I'm definitely going to follow Twinsburg. Who do you guys play week 1?
We're home versus Aurora week 1. Yeah, so we got a good one coming out of the gates.
All right, man.
Coach, do you still do a lot of stuff with Kari Hicks, man?
Say it one more time.
Do you guys do stuff with Kari Hicks?
Yeah, we do.
Do you do a bunch of stuff still with him with the Build the Bridge challenge and everything like that?
Yeah, so we're actually going to scrimmage heights in our AAFCA stuff that's going to come up in early August here. We didn't get to the Build a Bridge this year. We'll probably go back next year, but we've done all that type of stuff.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's when I first started following you, man. You were at Bedford. I remember following you on Twitter and messaging back and forth maybe a few times here or there. But man, I'm super happy for you and seeing the success that you've had since taking over there at Twinsburg and also being a 330 guy. Of course, I got to support you. But Coach, we appreciate you coming and sharing a little bit about the mid zone. We do greatly appreciate all the knowledge that you gave us. And you woke Donnie Mack up. You saw he was a little sluggish today, but you woke him up with that presentation. But I will say, though, we do appreciate you, and we appreciate all our viewers, man. Make sure you download, subscribe, and also get a hold of our sponsors, right? Fundraising University. Make sure you get a hold of Brent to be able to get set up for the next upcoming year or whatever you have planned for your team. And then also Storied Rivals. Make sure that you're getting your gear as well as getting ready for when they're going to come out and record some of your games. But we do appreciate every listener. What episode 53 we said, right?
54.
Oh my gosh. It's flying by. 54 is crazy.
Almost done. Hey, Coach, last but not least, but Coach is really our last guest. For this season. And
man.
So, we're gonna do a little all gas stuff and be done, and then kick it off with season 3 at the end of next year. So
love it.
Last but not least.
Now, Coach, you got to get down here though. We gotta link up. You got to get down here and see us, man. We appreciate you.
Anytime, and I was just in Columbus in May, man. Honestly, so if this had come about some months ago, man, we could all got together.
Well, be ready for our clinic next year.
I'm down. Absolutely.
All right, man. I love
my guy. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate you guys.
All right, take care.